Very good.
Could you promote me? Oh, man, if it's not even signed on yet. Oh, there. How come I'm not?
There you are.
You are.
There it
You're
goes.
allowed to talk.
Like to talk to.
Okey-dokey. Stay muted. This panelist. There we go. Okay. I think it's 5 o'clock. All right, so we will bring to order the special meeting of the Conservation Commission. And the first order of business is the roll call, so we'll start. Tom,
Tom Olson, member.
Ann Schmidt, member.
Mary Dunn, chair.
Ray Rafferty, vice chair.
Michelle Fitzpatrick, secretary.
Yeah, very good. There's we're not entertaining public comment tonight, as this is for the discussing the PLCD structure and the Conservation Commission's contribution to that August publication. But we do have one other piece of business I thought it would be appropriate to do. Should we salute?
Yeah.
Well, when I brought along
Anyway.
here,
Ooh, look
Well,
at that.
what is that?
trophies, yes, and this is the little handout for the thing. This is the package that was the submittal package, if anybody's interested in.
That is so cool.
There's actually a plaque that you get.
Very cool.
I'll pass this around people and then
If
you
it
actually get
disappears,
There you are.
I don't think.
And then there's a proclamation from the town, okay, so,
Very cool.
Yes,
so those are handouts.
Okay, sustaining qui-trans
so for the records, I guess we're doing this
extended, sustaining something.
is we're honoring Mr. Olson.
Very
or
cool.
Admiral Olson, what's the appropriate title?
Well, I was.
Captain.
Retired captain, okay. Being elected to the Connecticut Veterans Hall of Fame. and
Very cool.
Only 180,
I'm number 184.
184
That's very cool.
that had been inducted, so it was
Very cool.
very cool. And if you read the package, most of the package deals with conservation contributions, right?
Yeah.
Not just with us, but also with bikers and the trails and GOSA and a bunch of.
Very
other-
cool.
Yeah.
Weighty.
Office of the Governor of Connecticut. Oh, there we go.
This is where.
So we did want to,
Oh, no
did want to
problem.
get this on record.
So who put the submission in?
One guest, and her name is Olson. So this-
Very
this was
cool.
A secret underhanded mission that she worked on. And got a hold of the conservation community. The letter from the Conservation Commission in there.
Very cool. Which we didn't vote on because you didn't want them to know about it, right?
Give correct. That's-
Well, it was unanimous anyway, right?
Yeah, right.
So I did one of those without objection,
Right.
right? So congratulations.
Appreciate it.
And this now obligates you to another 4-year term. On the Conservation Commission. Isn't that correct? Is that? Yeah, that was a rule. Okay.
All the other winners should drop.
So, I'm doing some cleanup here, because those get messy. So let me share the screen and get right to.
The reason we're here.
Okay, so you'll find in front of you a number of handouts. And I think I'll go through those first and then it kind of relates to the approach I want to do, but the handouts are the actions from the 2016 PLCD. Right, so that's one of the handouts. The other one is the section 7 that we've been working on.
Gonna wait.
Yeah, that one. So, so there's been some information in there, and it really, since we started with the 2016 PLCD, we added to it from the plan of conservation that we wrote. So there is a relationship in there, but I want to just double check as we go through here. And at the end, we'll have an updated actions. We've also included our 2023 Conservation Commission's objectives. Right, so those are in there. Then there's a well, it's a spreadsheet, but you got the white piece of paper where I listed the table of contents, if you will, of the conservation section. And then I listed table of contents of the open space conservation plan. So we can kind of look at the thing, talk about the differences. And so the intent would be to kind of go through the status from 2016, delete, clarify, et cetera, add our 23 priorities, kind of smush it together and track it in section 7. So which I think we're there. This is just kind of a double check. Then I want to go through and collectively on a section basis, look at which from the Conservation Commission perspective, right? It's not the total staff perspective, which ones we think we want to retain, which ones we think are missing. And then obviously, as we go through that, decide which ones we want to contribute to, and, if possible, assign sponsorship or volunteer sponsorship for different sections from us. I'd also like to think about for each of the sections is get community collaboration. And first off would be from whether it's GOSA or Avalonia or, the Garden Club or, there's a bunch of organizations that's listed on the website that, kind of worked with to see if they, or the trails, the bikes and trails, anything up that to support the section so that really get community input as we go through here. And then if we have time, this thing might go fast. I hope this goes faster than I think. Is kind of talk about a high level schedule. And well, I had in there socialization with town staff and commission. So we have we have a jump on that because you were on my list. That so let we were going to target socialization with you. I've already reached out to the Planning and Zoning Commission and kind of think, that we'd be on their agenda in probably March. Kind of what I'm thinking, but that's now we're getting to the schedule. So, they're a key. Now, obviously, there's other commissions, but they're the key. Correct me if I'm wrong, they're the key in the development of this. So that's what I wanted to kind of focus on. So are there any suggestions? I barely got it out. Yes.
One of the things that I think I like all that you've got here, but I think there's something missing in regard to philosophically, where do we want to be going from an overall goal? Because one thing that jumps out at me to some degree is the classification of the open space, how it was done previously in here, and with the way we've been working with this, between the protected and preserved using the state definitions, then puts us into, well, we're only about 186 acres away from being at the national 30% goal for the town. Okay. And does that affect how we want to approach things? Because we're going to need to be probably talking about things such as why should we be above and beyond the national goal? Okay, because I know just with the efforts that the acres that GOSA is looking at right now puts you over that goal.
I agree. It's actually a line item in the agenda and the outline. That's the first section of the PLCD is the definitions.
Yeah.
And so I did want to, I agree with you. We've kind of been working on that.
Yeah.
But
us as the commission needs to have a long-term,
Is this the citizens and?
No.
Conservation Commission.
Oh,
But, you know, from a philosophical perspective, how are we gonna approach that question?
Yeah, well, I think that's what I was trying to get at with what we should add and what we should delete, what we want to focus
Okay.
on. So I think it's in there.
Okay.
But at the end, then when we come back and look at there, then we can say, what do we want to focus on, which gets you, that's absolutely one that I want to focus on,
Mhm.
right? So, and there's, each one of us wants to focus, another example is there's not enough in there on waste management, for example. That's it's in our plan of conservation, but it's not really in the PLCD. And that's a critical issue with another plant closing down, and this was like the February meeting. We're going to talk about the governor's proclamation on waste management, and there's all kinds of things there's probably 30 line items or bills that have been proposed. I don't want to get too carried away because bills being proposed is just,
oh, there's thousands.
to some degree, everybody wants to say, look what I'm doing. So, we gotta, that'll be a future action. It says, review the laundry list, decide which ones we want to support or focus on or spend energy on, right? But personal opinion is, I think waste management is an issue. I know we got into that when we did the plastics bill. Part of that was to reduce the amount of waste, and we did reduce tonnage. And there's a lot of other things in that arena that need to be done. Anyway, so I don't want to, yes.
So I want to add one thing too, because I mentioned this to you before, not everyone was here. So last week, Deb, John, and myself went to Planning and Zoning Commission to have the first initial talks about the POCD. And I think it was enlightening for a lot of different things. So I just wanted to ask, where would you like us to update you in your schedule here? Where would it be most helpful? How's that?
I'm trying to think, where it fits in is like the old listing, the old outline. And maybe when we get to that, you can say, well, they ain't interested in this, they are interested in this. It kind of gets to what's in and what's out. But I thought it was worthwhile from a history point of view to say what's been accomplished, not accomplished.
Yeah, oh, I have that. I have that for you. I'm happy. I know I'm planning on doing that.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted, like I said, because it might be at least the conversation, and I'll have Deb say a lot more.
Maybe our.
The conversation might be, it might be a little different.
Yeah, it could determine what we decide if we know what's going on with
Or
them.
not too far one way or the other.
Yeah.
But let's see, that was a Word document. So
I don't think none of you attended that, got a chance to attend that planning and zoning.
I did not know that was a topic where.
I know.
It's pretty much the only thing.
It was the
on
only
that
thing, it was-
agenda, so
yeah.
It's a good time to
Yeah.
talk about it.
So, this was out of the old one, so I was gonna go through this. So,
Yeah, and I have, so Deb and I worked with her and other staff on this whole thing, so I have an update for every single one of
Okay.
those. So
Oh,
you
wow.
tell me when you want me to do that?
that was it. That was the first one is, what's the status of the old?
All right.
Now,
the old one? Now,
Let's start with the no old. All right, get my glasses, because can't see.
Same here.
All right, so,
I had my analysis. We'll see if it
I know.
matches yours.
Well, all right, so we'll,
Okay.
everyone's, we're using this here, just kind of clicking through it, or we can use it on here as well.
Yep.
So Larry had asked me to go through the 27 action items as part of the chapter 2 conservation section of the 2016 POCD. And how I am going to kind of go through this with you all. The criteria of where we are for status is completed. So yes. OG ongoing. So it's in the process. And then the last one is not started. So those are the three lenses of which each of these are, and I have some updates and questions and stuff like that. So I hope you all got a chance to look at this. What you'll notice here, if you've read this section of the POCD with all of the action items, is that under each action item, it says it's a short term and long term, and then it actually has a series of who that task is actually assigned to. The lead is the one that's actually underlined there. What you'll see when you look through this whole thing is that that Conservation Commission has 2 that they're the leads on, but they're involved with 2 others. So 4 out of the 27 fall directly in line with Conservation Commission. It's not to say that there might be other stuff, but that's how the POCD was done. So that being said, we will start with 2-1. So basically, update the Water Resources Protection District regulations, including prohibitive uses and impervious surface standards, material handling methods, and consider a tiered system based on proximity to the reservoir or turbidity streams. That has been completed. That was finished in 2017. And Deb will add a lot from this anything. Here's the history. All right. The second one is basically develop low impact development regulations. That is ongoing. The third one out of this section is prepare a plan to retrofit town-owned stormwater basins and drainage structures to improve water quality. I know it says short-term here. This is actually ongoing. So this is being done by Public Works. The town has hired a consultant to do a town-wide assessment, and they're awaiting, I think they're awaiting the results for that to go to the next step.
Those guys were outside 2 weeks ago, were outside my
Oh.
house.
All right. Hopefully for good reasons.
No, they're doing the assessment.
All right, there we go. Next section 2-4, update regulations to conserve important natural resources. That is a yes, that's completed. That was addressed in the zoning rewrite in terms of things such as steep slopes and wetlands.
Calculating residential density by taking out those sensitive resources.
All right. Next one goes into 2-5. So basically fund open space acquisition annually in the capital improvement program. Yes, it is. It is ongoing. All right. It is proposed every year. However, it is ultimately a town council decision whether or not that actually ends up in the final budget. So that's why it's ongoing.
Okay, I hear you.
Well, are they taking credit because there wasn't anything before? And one of the things that when this was issued in 2016, it took them 4 years to put it into place. And so are they taking credit that this is completed now that it's been part of the budget process and it's been recurring over the next 4 years?
I mean, I think that's why Dave put it as ongoing.
Yeah.
It's like every year we're proposing.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, but so the only reason I asked that is that should we be considered, you didn't have it before and now you do have it in the budget process. So that's a completion. So I don't know.
From a
why-
process point of
From a
view.
process, but that's why I said
not
yes,
a-
but
An actual funding point of view.
Well, I mean, there's things that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Space.
Yeah, it's a question of what you're going for. I think having a,
So the question is, would you rewrite this?
yeah, it should
This
be
in the
written
next-
that says it's funded, not just there's a process to fund it.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
But anyway,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
but that's the objective. The objective ought to be is funded, not that there's a process to fund it, right?
I still think every single year it's you can cut anything.
You can cut.
And
it.
so
Yeah, I know. Okay,
Okay.
all right. 2-6, amend the zoning map and regulations to include a new open space recreation district. And that is part of that's a yes, the new
Yep.
mapping. Yep. Develop an open space management plan for existing town-owned open space to include inventory, monitoring of conservation easements, and to provide standards for improvement. That's ongoing. I think it's always going to be ongoing.
PRD.
oh,
Parks and
Part of
Rec.
the
Department.
okay, I was gonna say. We create with the baseline has been completed. You're right, it's always ongoing. So,
Parks and Rec hasn't updated their regulations yet, which is a big factor in this thing.
okay. 2-8.
2-9, 2.8, develop criteria for which to evaluate proposed open space parcels and develop a map of desirable open space. So this one, I'm actually gonna throw back at the commission and say, what do you feel about this one here? I know there's been some actions towards it.
Well, no, the plan of conservation does the first, and we had a long debate. That was before you got here about, should we actually put the parcels under consideration in or out? We decided not to put them in. Because it wouldn't help the negotiation process or anything. So we did do that. It's. I'm not sure what the right word is. It wasn't, we did not publicize the list of parcels. So it's completed.
Partially. Yeah.
It's completed, but we did not publish that aspect for I think good reasons, right? Like I said, we got a long debate on that.
Yep.
So I'm gonna say completed.
So is this something like we would put in the new plan, the explanation of what happened, like to describe where it stands
The
and
POC did not do that.
what's that?
The past POC didn't do that. It's
Didn't
like a brand
include-
document.
Yeah, it didn't include anything about, and there's no explanation of what it like, if it just didn't.
The requirement to document what you accomplished. It's just a plan, not a report.
Yeah, not a report.
And remember too, like this being one section, there's 93 action items for this POCD.
Yep.
Which we'll talk about in a little bit. So.
No, I mean, we listed a lot of them. We had our own, and it was a long laundry list.
Yeah.
We whittled it down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it takes
Yep.
energy to track the darn thing.
Yep.
Um,
All right, so where are we?
So
2-9.
I thought that was completed, right, with the.
Yeah, so I put completed. Yep. I just wanted to clarify and make sure that you were okay with that.
Yep.
2-9, revise the zoning and subdivision regulations to increase open space and recreational requirements and to provide standards for improvement. This is ongoing. The zoning regulations have been updated for multifamily, but none of the subdivision regulations have been updated yet.
And to be clear, multifamily and the zoning regulations, they don't require open space as part of a site plan. Only subdivision regulations
Right.
allow you to actually exact land out of somebody. So it's the recreational amenities were updated with regards to multifamily. And then public space was required in the design districts, the mixed use village center, the Paquonic Bridge area, and then the downtown. There are requirements for public space.
Okay.
So we put that as ongoing just because it's half and half. 210, develop regulations to address various farming practices and to allow accessory uses for farms associated with on-farm agritourism activities, especially those that promote local food production, such as local food festivals or other on-site events that capitalize on Groton's agricultural amenities. That is a yes, it has been completed. However, it needs to be amended.
Yeah, I think the actual regulations for farms are too restrictive. There are huge buffers that essentially make a very small area of a piece of land that can be dedicated to farming. All the rest of this stuff is allowed now, the temporary events and the festivals and all that sort of stuff. That's all allowed by just an administrative approval.
That one. 211, develop an action plan to establish, expand, and connect green belts and state greenways. I said yes, if you all agree with that.
Isn't it really kind of ongoing though? Because
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
we got really far in it, but we still have more things we need to suggest, right, Tom?
Well, you got the greenways now.
Yeah.
And so that, in that aspect, and so it's a matter of what are you doing with the greenways? I think this is what it's gonna, it's not to develop and maintain greenway, I think is probably is to continue to, we're gonna need to rework the words here, but
Yeah, I think we've gone to the stewardship.
yeah.
I won't say issue or problem, but.
Well, I think it's the connectivity that you don't have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, stewardship's a different issue. This is
Yeah.
acquiring more, the place, making the connections that
Right.
aren't there right now.
Right.
Right.
And also updating based on our conservation plan updated the green belts. And then you just now need to develop the continuity between them.
Well, we did say completed in our list.
Yes. We took credit for it.
So we said completed in our list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but we're just saying there's more, there's, you know, the next phase for the next.
Yeah,
plan.
it needs to be
The plan has been.
Right. Yep, and the execution,
established,
right,
The
Yeah, so
execution.
now what?
now, yeah.
We didn't require that.
All right, 212, update the Groton bicycle pedestrian and trails master plan. As many of you know, this is ongoing. 213, implement the recommendations of the Parks and Rec master plan and continue to set implementation policies for open space and parks based on funding. This is ongoing. 214, support the implementation of the Thames Heritage Park and plan for connections between a water taxi, a trail network, and existing town infrastructure. This is also ongoing, but the plans are in action now.
Yeah,
For construct,
funding's in place.
funding's in place for constructing the dock at Nautilus.
When are they gonna start work?
You were gonna ask that. I just don't know.
dragged out.
Yeah, we can get a-
No, it's been a topic of conversation for many years.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
They had a sign up at the Nautilus and they took it down a couple of years, just prior to COVID. The frame's still there.
Oh, no.
All right, now we're on to coastal resources 2-15, complete a harbor management plan for Groton. This is ongoing. The plan has been completed only in Noank and the city. There's a town draft that goes back to the 1990s, but there is no town approved harbor management plan for the town itself. Create incentives such as streamline approval process to encourage water dependent uses at waterfront.
Got 216.
Oh yeah, I totally missed it. How did I miss that? Oh, I totally missed that. Sorry. It's getting ahead of myself. Thank you, Michelle. So develop a program to prioritize and implement the selected strategies outlined in the municipal coastal program, including development of plans to restore eroded tidal marshes, to acquire land for marsh advancement, and to reduce the direct discharge of stormwater to coastal waters. That, which is why I was going ahead, at this point is a non-starter.
Yeah.
That has not been started yet.
So the municipal coastal program was a document that was supposed to be updated at the same time as the POCD. We got to the point of having a draft and ran out of money and had to focus on getting the POCD adopted. So we have a draft of that, but that needs to be finalized first before you can implement the recommendations.
Now, would that be part of the POCD,
It's a separate document.
but referenced in this?
It was referenced in here because we sort of assumed it
Assumed it
would
would be.
be adopted
yeah.
at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but the sustainability plan
Separate.
would subsume this
That's a different
thing
document.
that. Okay,
is this a
This is
document
more-
that's each town adopts the municipal coastal program?
And we do have one it was required to be adopted when the coastal legislation went into effect. So we've got one from the mid to late 70s.
Yep.
That recommended. a
I'm
whole
sure it's
number
still
of-
perfectly valid.
A number of them actually are. So the idea was to update that. It's not a requirement to update it. It was a requirement to have one to begin with.
plans with no actions doesn't
I don't-
do much, but.
So what does it mean? Is there anybody actually working on getting it approved? Is it?
Not at the moment.
So it's
It's a project that's hanging out there for someone who might.
interested in doing it?
We have to leave.
All right, so now 217. Create incentives such as streamline approval process to encourage water dependent uses of waterfront sites. This has also not been started.
Why do you want water dependent uses? Don't you want to conserve water? Encourage people to use it? I obviously
So-
missing something.
So, I mean, obviously, there's development all over on the water, and the state and the town want water dependent uses to be there as opposed to a restaurant or a condo association. So, something that absolutely has to be on the water
Okay.
should be located there.
Boat
and
building,
shouldn't be
marina.
Pushed out by,
Got it.
condo
Okay,
association.
all right, that makes more
That's what
sense.
that is, Yeah, so this recommendation was, let's try to make it easier for those water dependent uses to expand.
Right.
And have less red tape.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right, 218, create a coastal overlay zone to manage coastal development. This has also not been started.
Well, how does NERV factor into that?
Doesn't,
Yeah,
NERS is the federal, NOAA.
Yeah, I know it's the federal one, but it kind of overlaps.
Well,
So,
the NER is a research area, and this is what they're talking
is
about, coastal
Management.
development,
Is a zoning.
zoning
technique.
type of thing.
Okay, so not going into the water, just, okay, all right.
Just along the water's edge. It's a hashed area. It's like there's a watershed area, there's different areas of the town.
all right, 219, create a plan to connect, expand and improve public access locations and to secure additional public parking for these public access points. And this is ongoing.
What's been done?
So a couple of things. I mean, every time a site plan comes in for on the water that is not water dependent, we get public access and we get the rights to it by easement and signage. So we picked up a couple. Central Hall, I think, is probably the last one. Yeah, I think so. What else was on here? Public parking, not much.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
challenging.
That's kind of why I asked, because
Yep. Well, I mean, think of the town dock down on Water Street. There's no place to park your trailer if you want to use it. So,
Well, and there's also a couple of legal challenges to things we thought were public access.
There's that too.
Yeah, we won't get into that, but okay.
and then Kent and Frost did a coastal access plan for signage, just for Mystic at this point.
Both sides of the river.
No.
No, just.
It's just Mystic. We have coastal access to other places in town, but this one is just signage for Mystic.
220. Develop a master plan for Esker Point Park, Beach and Park. That is not started yet. There is a project across the street that you may be thinking about, the TNC project for the parking lot.
Well, there's also, because this came up in the NOANC zoning commission, is where after toing and froing, there was agreement on a plan on the beach side for planting and other things. So I'm kind of sitting there going, well, for the beach side.
No. This is because
Oh,
to try to keep the sand on the.
Yes,
beach.
yes.
right. But that was the whole point, is what's the planning for the beach? So I think there was final agreement between NOANC and town on what to do, where to put, and there's a planting. I think they've more than doubled the grass, the grass is there. So I don't know, so I think a little bit is.
I'll say ongoing.
I'm just trying to help.
No? There's a lot
There's
more.
no development of a master plan, and there's actions that are happening based on.
Yeah, right.
We have one, it's not good. I read it.
That one from the 70s.
Yeah, it's not good at all. So I won't even get into why it's not good, but, and I think that,
Well, this is a specific plan to Esker Point. You're saying that you have the municipal, it's the Town of Groton Municipal Coastal Program
Right.
plan from 1982. Found that, but this is for
That's
specifically to Esker Point.
And,
So
right,
that's-
a master plan, programming as well as.
So that's gonna get screwed up when they put that bridge in, right? I mean,
That's what I was thinking.
they're gonna have a lot of construction and staging, and I would assume they're gonna be leaning to say, let's use that parking lot for a lot of staging. I mean, that would make practical sense. But would that then say that as part of that project, they're gonna have to clean that up? And doesn't that give some opportunity to kind of have there was a plan there that leave it in a better shape than we?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just
You're just.
thinking there's an opportunity.
Opportunity.
I'm trying to help you out here.
Yeah,
Let's get the
no, it's-
people that
I
are
mean,
doing the
Mark
planning
Berry
for
just
us.
asked for money to
Right.
develop such a plan, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, because this is a, a Mark Berry issue.
Right.
So
No, I know, but we're not totally.
No.
We hope all the commissions, right? Okay.
All right, so I'm changing it to ongoing based upon our conversation.
Okay.
Where am I?
21.
221, I gotta go to my next page. All right. Maintain and enhance the historic character of various areas of town by continuing to participate in the
Good.
certified local government program, continuing to support the local historian and conducting updated surveys of the local historic districts when funds are available. And that is a yes, completed. 222, amend zoning and subdivision regs to allow the land use commissions to require archaeological and historical surveys prior to approval. Yes for zoning, no for subdivision, so ongoing. Include historic assets and historic districts as critical features that merit protection and or planning when considering disaster mitigation plans, especially with regard to flooding, storm surge, sea level rise, and coastal erosion. And that's ongoing. The COG is working with the towns to update the hazard mitigation plan, and we've been working on that. 224, amend zoning regs to support redevelopment and create reuse of historic properties while maintaining historic characteristics. That has not been started yet. There is a section in the zoning regs, but that also needs to be updated.
Right.
225, align and adjust zoning development standards in older neighborhood areas to reinforce the established development pattern, complement existing structures, and enhance neighborhood character. That is completed.
Now, there's a variety of zoning districts within the town, so you're talking about the town aspects, not necessarily a no way, but the other fire districts.
Correct, that's right. When the zoning commission redid the zoning regulations, we looked at whether or not the setbacks and the density matched what was already on the ground in these older neighborhoods, and in a lot of cases, it didn't. So we adjusted those types of things to make it easier for folks to either put on an addition without having to go for a variance, or to build a new house that was similar to those in the neighborhood.
Okay.
226, identify and recognize the uniqueness of each node and special focus area as a component of the entire community. Create development standards, pattern books, and or design guidelines to enhance a sense of place and sympathetic design in the special focus area. And that's a yes, completed. It addresses both the mixed use zoning and design guidelines that we have. And the final one, develop guidelines to preserve scenic resources such as stone walls, hitching posts, public views, etc., that are visible from public rights of way. That has not been started.
But what was envisioned here? Another ordinance or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how you make it
Yeah.
happen. And who's-
You know, yeah.
It was assigned to you. so.
I know, right? Something other than the ordinance, where people have to go and just have a public hearing in front of the county. They want to do an alteration in the right of way.
Mhm.
There's no real standards in that ordinance. And we don't talk at all about public views.
Right.
And trying to, keep them and maintain them. Yeah, I'm not sure what we would do with this.
one of the big problems with the scenic views is trees grow up.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna say, yeah, I'm sympathetic because we had that whole discussion about down in Mystic, that one, the end of the street and the little beach down
Oh,
there.
yeah.
That whole, that's a kind of like, and then you've also got the whole scenic, how this is getting from scenic roads from public rights away, I don't know, it's kind of a weird tie-in, but
All right, well, thank you, but you're right, no, I kind of did my own scan and you did your scan, and there are some different, I just ignored some of the wins, I didn't know anything about.
we appreciate the update.
But, so we appreciate the update, so, but when you look at the section, maybe you want to look at that first. There's a lot of things that, when you look at the comparison between plant conservation and PLCD, that in our view is missing, because we kind of supplemented it. So, you know, what I was trying to do is get to the point that says, which one of the, and that's the outline list on the spreadsheet that the handout is. There's a couple ways to go forward on this. I was thinking of the section 7, which we took our 23 objectives, and shoved them in there with what was remaining. But also from a philosophical point of view, because I know that's where you want to go, is, you know, maybe that should be done after we look at the list of topics that we have in our conservation plan, to say which one should be incorporated, because philosophically, we want us to be aligned with the PLCD. And we're not quite there. I mean, we've got the stuff that they had, but they don't have the stuff that we have.
Yeah, Okay, I think you're saying we want the PCD to be aligned with us. That's what-
Well, well, that's the more,
Next step.
the official document of the town, which is approved, et cetera, is that. Now, even though our plan was approved by town council, we're supported by it. They're still not, they're not matched.
Well, you know, there's 5 years of difference in that,
Right.
a 10-year scale. Okay, so we did, I look at it as we did a mid-year, mid-session update, okay? From of what we're looking at as far as on where our directions. Plus, we went into a lot more details relative, which should be at a lower level. The POCD is a high-level document that goes to the state and is looked at as far as on where you want to be going. So a lot of the gory details that we have in our open space plan, I don't think are appropriate for a plan of a POCD.
That's what I want to talk
Great
about.
segue.
Right.
Great segue. That's perfect, Tom.
Really great. That's what I want to talk about.
Zoning commission would agree.
Yeah.
So this is what's up here is, this is the spreadsheet. Here's the stuff in the POCD that you just kind of went over, the actions. And here's what's in the open space plan. Right? And when I went through it, I think, you know, I had tagged some items that, like you mentioned one, that I think should be addressed. You're right, some of it is a level of detail, you know, not necessary. So perhaps.
So can I make a suggestion maybe?
Yep.
So make a list of all that detail stuff and then figure out from that list what the high level things are that would go in the plan. Like, so here's like all the
That-
things that we think are
Right,
missing,
that's what I was
Right.
trying to get at in this list.
right? And then from, so I'm thinking put it rather, well, I mean,
Well,
extract from that list the things.
yep, okay.
And then once we see what the details are, then we can see, okay, how do we translate that into the higher level that will go in the POCD?
All right, well. I think, well, I'll start off. Section 1. I think is appropriate for the POCD. It addresses the question Tom had of the the definition of what open space is. It beefs up why open space is a positive economic contributor to the town. Not, you know, that's something that we've worked on for years. It says it's not a negative, guys. It's a positive. So that flavor, I think, you know, should be in the POC. You know, again, we're giving my opinion, not the commission's opinion. So maybe we should just talk about section 1, which is kind of those, you can see what's in there, right? Is is the purpose of open space, well, that, I mean, the definitions, why protect open space? What's the plan, vision for open space? Our objectives, which gets into the 30% target for the.
Which hasn't been incorporated into here.
Yeah. You know, that high level view, when you read this.
Page 213.
Yeah, 213, yeah, okay, 213. Is, I think, very light and not persuasive. What's the word I'm looking for?
Convincing,
Convincing, persuasive. So what's the,
Good word.
Oh, I have a lot of underlines here.
oh, you got a lot of underlines. All right, well, why don't we go around and get on
I
that
haven't read
first,
this in a while.
first
I
section?
had one question, for the POCD, are these sections set by the state of what they want, or?
No.
No, there, I mean,
So
there
we
are
can-
requirements of the POC, things that absolutely have to be in a POCD. I mean, open space isn't necessarily one of them.
Okay,
So no, those sections are not.
okay, so it might actually look very different for the 2026.
It probably will.
Will.
It probably
okay.
will. That is the part of the discussion we had with planning and zoning last week, just
Okay.
really high level, you know, what do you guys want to see as a format? Dave brought a couple of old ones and they're all, you know, like this thick. And the commission was
That's a really,
comfortable saying there are too many words in there. So,
They compare this to other towns.
yeah. So, I think we've got one here from Hartford, which,
Yep.
you know, it's a totally different community. But you
Oh,
can just see
wow.
what the format is. It's less words and these are the things we need to do.
It's just the plan.
oh
More
my
action,
That's the plan.
more action oriented.
Exactly. So.
But
lot less narrative.
picture action.
Lots of pictures.
So they were interested in that kind of format as opposed to, you know, just updating the text that we have here.
Yeah.
They found this one to have a lot of repetition in there. A lot of the narrative repeats, some of the recommendations are kind of similar, and they really didn't want 93 more recommendations.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
So a lot of it is also the focus of who you hire, what you're gonna get out.
Is, but we want to know what they want so we can craft the RFP.
P to-
Someone that will,
Yeah.
we're likely to give you what you want.
Want to mention too, that because I think this will be helpful too, like the conversation around public outreach and what was successful.
Right. So
or
the three
not
things we
successful.
talked to them about was format. We asked them to identify issues that they see right now as being something we really need to address in the next POCD. And then how we want to conduct public outreach. For all of these three documents here, public outreach was in the form of forming a steering committee. And the steering committee was typically somebody from conservation, somebody from wetlands, somebody from zoning commission, somebody from parks, commission members, okay? Not necessarily the public,
Outreach, yeah.
right? And staff's thoughts are, even before pen goes to paper, we start meeting neighborhoods and seeing what the issues are in neighborhoods. And the commission liked that idea and also thought that there should be commission outreach to those neighborhoods as rather than making people, you know, come to them. So that's likely the sort of thing we'll do even before we start, the consultant starts writing. And then the issues to be addressed, you know, they're just starting to think about it right now, but transportation is an action to the rest of the region with all types of modes of moving around. So complete streets, and not just within Groton, but, you know, over to London and other towns. You know, resiliency, sustainability, not just climate change, but in terms of, you know, sustainability of town operations. And, you know, what do we do if there's another COVID and that kind of thing. So, yeah, so we've just sort of started thinking about it, hoping we get funded.
And the funding is coming from
It's a request in the
budget.
budget,
It's about.
Within the town council, I mean, the budget,
right?
town budget.
And if it's not, then the update will look a lot different than that. It will have to be staff driven and it will be small.
Does the state come back when you make this and say, we want the following things in it?
So state statute calls out what absolutely has to be in it. But the state doesn't review the document and say, oh, you missed that, this and the other thing, and you need to change that.
So there's no punitive action taken if you don't have.
Well, the punitive action comes up that if you don't have it registered with them, then when you go up like an Oswick grant or whatever,
Yeah.
there's those kind of things.
Grants you-
All kinds of grants. That's the one I'm familiar with from
Right.
the conservation.
That's
Commission.
right.
It's the same for the public works and all these other things. There's a lot of.
Self-interest economically to have the damn plan.
Yes.
And have it,
Kind of where you start.
yeah, and have it in time so we don't have a gap.
Yeah.
Between this one, because this one will expire, I think.
26.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about that.
That's right. That's right.
We're with you.
Yep.
Okay. And remember, this is like, how do we help?
Hmm.
Is why we're here.
Yep.
Right? So back to the question on the table of that very first section of defining open space, the value to the town, the definition of what it is. And obviously, you got the inventory stuff, so that's a good input. But then, how much, what do you use? How much do you use? I mean, the GIS mapping, all that kind of stuff is, I think, can be, I won't say readily, nothing is readily, but is available. So it's not like, from our perspective, a lot of the homework has been done. It's kind of what makes it into the plan and what you think is useful, valuable to get in the plan.
Right, and I think the commission is interested in what you all see as useful in the plan. And so, I mean, the first thing I've heard here is like, you guys need to figure out the definition.
Yes, because the one thing we always get asked when we go to town council is,
Yep.
how much land do we have? And then John gets up there and says, it depends.
Yep.
I don't want to do it depends anymore.
Yep.
Right? We don't have to anymore. We got exactly what it is. It's this, and this with this definition. You want to know how many have facilities on it? We could tell you. Want to know how? We could tell you. But that debate is very frustrating. So that's why we think the definitions are important for a whole bunch of.
Make a suggestion. That we sort of get the list up before we go into detail about each thing on the list.
I like that.
She's in teacher mode.
Our big picture.
Facilitator mode.
Oh.
Because otherwise we might not get the whole list done.
Getting started is the toughest.
Yeah,
But-
so if we make, I think this was a good discussion about the open space, but I think we need to get the whole list of stuff and then see what time we have to go into details on them. Everybody,
So we're kind of saying somewhere in our section 1.0, we need to extract something to go into the PLCD.
yeah, so basically what other, like waste management was the thing, do we want to add that on our list? By the way, Groton does have, Hartford has a page on waste management.
Well, we do.
So what else do we want? What else is on our list of things?
For the entire plan,
For the
not
entire-
just, so I think not just
Yes.
looking at the current,
Right,
what it is
but
now.
what issues do we think are important that the town needs to include in that plan based on all the things we've had to deal with in the last 7 or 8 years?
Absolutely.
So what's our laundry list
Yep.
of things that the plan should address? And we can, brainstorm. We don't have to
Right.
You can put everything down.
get a long list and then we can distill it.
Well, the things that we've been working on from our priorities was waste management. And that carries a whole bunch of things. You got plastics, you got organic composting. you got all kinds of-
Yep.
That general area is, I think, not represented at all in the 20, but is, I think, going to be critical in the 2026 one.
Yep.
When do we run out with our contract? It's going to be 20. this
Lisbon.
decade,
is
right?
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the date is.
It's one of the last ones to close, Lisbon. Detail.
Big picture, big picture. I'll keep on. You keep on that. I'll come from this side. Big picture. Waste management, perfect. Now, next.
Climate change issues, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Well,
coastal resilience.
But there's a whole sustainability, I mean,
Well, no, we're not doing just from the conservation. I'm hearing that we're just brainstorming everything that should be in the P O C.
yes, and
then-
certainly sustainability.
And
Yeah.
just from your perspective.
in the conservation section.
Oh.
I'm not gonna be.
Well, this
thing is-
fits.
I don't.
Yeah, I agree that. Well, you said that, I would say that the thing that I'm looking down the list here is this whole carbon sequestration issue. I think that's an appropriate thing, because that gives us credibility for what we should be keeping. Because it's in our plan,
Trees and
Trees and
management.
management,
you know,
yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
woodland and carbon sequestration
Yeah, I
area.
agree with that.
It's something that should be rolled over into
Okay.
here.
Keep going.
I was gonna say, well, we talked about the continuation of green belts and greenways, but it's ongoing, so it's.
Okay.
Management and improvement of those.
Yeah.
Connections.
Yeah.
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 Now, I mean, the other thing that bugs me is stewardship of the lands we have. I think is underfunded in Parks and Rec. I mean, it's not our job to do stewardship, but we're concerned about it.
Yep. Put that down.
Yeah, definitely.
But we have nice plans and other things, but we've not.
A lot of invasives,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Parks and Rec needs a person.
Yeah. So that,
Hmm.
that's one to me. A lot of stuff fits under those that we just said.
That's good. That's good. We want to keep this simple at a higher level. I mean,
Well, we need all of these ideas first, and then we turn it into higher level.
Yeah.
That way the higher levels don't miss any of these things.
I was thinking along, from a water point of view, we weathered the quote Connecticut drought with no issues. I mean, so kind of like, didn't seem like we had a water issue. We got a lot of protected space when you look at the maps. I mean, yeah, there was the climate meeting. I mean, there's so many freaking meetings. Climate, and they have this new tool that Clear is putting out that shows all the watersheds and things. I mean, we're in pretty darn good shape versus a lot of other areas. So I'm sitting there going.
So are there watershed issues, I guess is the question. Does
Yeah, I'm
watershed
not
need
sure
to be
there,
on
I
the-
mean, like I said, I thought we were in pretty good shape. I don't know, but you tell
So
me.
are you talking, all right, so that's a good
You're
question.
protecting
You talking
land.
water quality? Or you talking water quantity?
I think he's talking quantity.
That was quantity,
Yeah.
but you're right, there's a quality
Yep.
question. So
Yeah.
quantity, I think we're okay on.
Yep.
Quality gets into, gets into a lot of things, the plants and things.
But are we getting outside the scope of what the town's doing? Because that really falls onto the Groton Utilities side of the house, and they have their own master plans and all this
Well,
kind
who owns the
of.
treatment plant?
What?
The sewage treatment plant, that's town.
The
And again-
sewage treatment is different though. You're not talking sewage treatment, you're talking.
It's a quality of water, the quality of water.
Detail.
I know, we're getting big picture.
No, we're asking a question here. Is this a subject that should be put into the PLCD?
Well, we're gonna come back to it,
Okay.
because we're gonna wanna prioritize and say, okay, what, all right, out of these, which ones really are?
Quality and,
You said,
water quality.
my question is, what has to do with sewage treatment? I guess I'm lost. I understand the drought watershed issue, and then I would argue that
I'm just saying water quality.
water quality is a separate issue.
Right, that's why it's up there as water quality, not water quantity.
No, you were talking about two different things. We started off with quantity.
Right.
Yeah, water quality.
And then, but I think water quality is an additional item,
Correct, yeah.
right?
Because you got
So-
plastics in water, you got, I mean, there's things that we didn't have 10 years ago that.
So you have this separated into two things, just for clarification.
Well, yeah, I didn't put quantity down at all. I just thought water quality is an issue that needs to be in the plan.
But I think
Maybe put quantity on there, and then what you're all saying is that it's not important. It's a big issue, but it may not be a big issue for us, so.
Or it may not be a big issue in 10 years,
In
but
10
maybe it will be in 30.
I think it's something that we should be addressing.
All right.
Glad she put it on.
It's
What about public access to open space? Is that an issue?
Social. Good, here's your chance.
Yeah, some, where the open space is and access to open space might be something to consider. Well, the transportation piece, that would fit
Would you
in.
like to use?
Well, either social justice or environmental justice with open space, is that what you mean? Or,
Yeah, well, what you're looking at access and you're looking at.
yeah. And quantity and type of open space in different areas of the town. To be honest, it's going to be quite limited by the level of development. I think that's pretty obvious, but you know, the city, for example, we keep hearing from members of the council, right, that the city seems to have less than other, but I don't know where you're gonna put it. 'Cause
Well, since all
most of
the
it is-
city has its own POCD.
It does. Anyway, but yes.
Okay, so it's on the list.
Address the
Yep.
access, certainly access to open space.
I think access is the right word.
Yeah.
Access, right.
Uh,
And I'll take everything that Michelle's writing right here, and I'll add all this to the notes. So we'll have all this to look at.
So do we feel strongly about any of the not started stuff that need to go on the list?
Well, I'm just looking through our 2023 ones, and so far the one that's not on there is the town's bicycle pedestrian trail master plan, one of the items on our priority list. So,
And that could fall under access. How you're accessing it. It could. I mean, it's,
I think it's part of it.
it could, part of it could be, yep.
Yeah, it could be a subset of a bigger issue that they would both fall under somehow. Organized that way.
Uh, I mean, that kind of hits all of the priority items we had.
Well, the only thing I don't see is this, where do we talk, is there one up there on the coastal? There's the significance of the coast.
332, yeah.
Yeah, did you write that, something about coastal?
Well, I have resiliency up
Coastal
here.
resiliency,
Oh, the coastal resilience?
right there, the third one down. Climate change
Oh,
issue.
Coastal resiliency.
Coastal
Coastal
resilience,
resilience.
okay.
But do you
Is
mean,
there something else, do
Yeah.
you want to add some detail to that or something else? What do you think? Tom, what is, what,
No, I just want to make sure it was up there. I kind of missed
Yeah.
what was going on there. Okay.
okay.
I didn't.
but is that the
Does that cover the issue you're
That's
thinking of though?
what is it- or
Yeah, that's
some
fine.
other-
That's good. That covers it. You wanted to be higher level, so that's fine. I just didn't see it up there.
So this is, I just have to get this out because it's on my mind and I know it has nothing to do with this, but when I'm thinking of water quality and just all the sewage transfer stations, is that what they're called? Or sewage stations or?
Pump station.
Station, thank you. So down in Mystic, they're in the floodplain.
Yep.
And so
Yeah, how do you get?
for water
Water in?
quality issues and
And we're working
coastal
on this.
flooding.
Yep.
Yep.
That's,
Yep.
and is that part of this kind of thing, that somewhere in here?
It is, I mean, and public works is actively used in the town.
Yeah.
But
okay,
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, you put pump stations in low areas.
here's,
That's-
yeah,
That's why they're there.
Exactly.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
but
But
What
Well,
happens
too
when
low.
Water level goes above?
are
the
they
pump
still
station?
functioning? Can they still function?
Yeah, can they keep on?
I guess that comes up to the part of the climate change issue is what's going to be affected, right? And
Yeah.
what needs to be addressed that could be affected by rising water. So what needs to be addressed that could be affected, right?
Right, that's part of the resilience.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is,
Town
yeah,
Operations.
okay.
Town infrastructure.
And the
okay.
resilience also includes all the marsh areas.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
We don't have anything in there about acquisition to get to the next
Well, that's a
There was
solution, not
some
a,
in here.
no.
Was there acquisition for Marsh?
I think you're right. Put acquisition up there. I think that's another,
Yeah,
Piece of
land
it.
acquisition.
again, this is
not
just
just-
brainstorming, you know?
Yeah,
like-
it's
Yeah.
not just for coastal, it's, I mean, we
Every-
agree that there are parts of town that
Yeah.
don't have
Right.
adequate
Yeah.
open space. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and that's also part of the connecting the green belts as well.
Exactly.
That's, it's related to that.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
And then just, the other thing that pops in my head with all this current discussion about affordable housing. And yeah, I don't know how that's got to fit in
Mm.
probably to all of this somehow.
mhm.
Wanna add that to the list?
Well,
Something that.
I don't know if it
Yeah.
belongs in this conservation section. That's really a
Certainly
housing
belongs in
issue.
the
That's
PLCD.
not part of the POCD.
But in that planning, the open space needs to be accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
don't, think that that is going to be the format of the next one.
The four
You know what I mean?
sections.
Those.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead and brainstorm and
Yeah.
see how the formatting falls out.
I mean, one of the things I was trying to do, and actually there's some analyses out there, I think for the city of Groton, but within this 1/2 mile radius of where you live, access to a green space and that kind of.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna pretend I'm just channeling Kristen. What about, well, things like the pollinators and those kind of things, where would that fit in? Is that part of,
It's water management.
is that part of water?
Well, the combination is more.
No, it's
It's
how, well, it's also how I mean, I think it's maybe part of the planning, for the stewardship is what we do with the land to include.
Yeah, I think it's
Assertive versus
We want
native.
to make sure that we don't kill off all the bees.
Right.
I mean, not to get too much details, but then we follow, we die after that,
So include invasive and pollinator issues. Which our plans don't really right now. I mean, they involve getting rid of invasives, but we didn't really look at adding pollinator things to our management plans, right?
Not
No.
to the manual plans.
But it's
right.
not at that level of detail either.
Right.
So-
But it's something, to just,
Mhm.
how do we expand that concept into the town's open spaces, right? Would be what would be about.
I know you all are brainstorming, but I wanted to add one just because you've talked about it every month that
We
I've been
haven't
here,
brought it up yet.
is
What?
outreach. You know, like.
Outreach.
I had that on there.
See?
Well,
No one said it.
I know, and I was thinking about it, but
I didn't think it's, I wasn't sure that was part of the plan, but why not, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That'll be part of the
Actually, I think that's a
Right.
really important.
well, I mean, there's two pieces of that. One is to create public outreach to create it, right? But the other one is as part of the plan on an ongoing basis,
that's it.
right? I mean, because we've talked about,
Yep.
right, getting public
Well-
outreach and everything.
And if it's part of the plan, it becomes easier to get staff support to do it. Right, because right now, anything we plan, we have to ask for specifics, we have to like. Detail each thing we need from the staff, whereas if it's part of the plan, it just gets built into the system, right?
Well, is
But
it,
that-
is
I'm
it,
I'm looking at the staff because you guys like, is that true? Is what I said true?
is it outreach / in public involvement? More,
Yeah,
it's
and I
not
think-
just outreach to me is like a one-way street where we're reaching out. I'd rather, I want to see that the public is more involved.
And it's not just the development of the plan, it's the implementation.
Yes.
Right.
Really
Well, that's what, and right, I think that's the critical
Yeah,
piece.
yeah.
Is how do you incorporate in the plan the two directions with the public?
I think it overlaps all of it, because, sorry, Tom.
does.
Because especially the stewardship piece of it, you're looking for someone to steward these properties.
I
And the
know.
only way you're gonna get there is you're actually outreaching, and I know you're doing outreach, I know.
We're
several
trying.
of you are outreaching, but it's all, a lot of this is all interwoven within
Yep.
itself,
Tom,
A new topic is that we haven't really talked very much at all relative to the there's one item on the agricultural, but we didn't talk about like the shellfish and the egg and the aquaculture stuff that's going on within the town here. We're trying to improve on it. I know Stonington's got a big push on it, and the guys down the road here, I don't think we have really much in Groton at all.
That which is
They would be doing so.
maybe productive is being utilized. I guess the question is, we have historic shellfish beds, but are they,
Being commercialized.
could they be commercialized?
Should they be?
Or should they?
Should they be?
And how does the climate change going to affect what is already there?
Yeah.
'Cause that feeds into climate change as well, right?
But it's, shellfish is one thing, but there's the agriculture, all the kelp development, that type of stuff. You really don't see here. And then likewise, if you bring that on land, I mean, there really isn't. They did, it sounds like they did something here with the one item on agriculture. Back on 2-10, but we haven't been pushing for other small size agricultural.
Like marijuana growing, is that?
Potentially, or the Burroughs family farm could be a real farm.
And one of the things that I can't remember in Harvard, they were talking about in general, having like micro farms, make that easier for people to do micro farming and support that. So it's something that could happen. I mean, our city could our town could definitely support micro farming, right?
Right.
Agriculture. Just add it up here, why not? Urban
Agriculture.
Yeah, urban and micro.
I think we hopefully can all agree that as things get crazier, the more you have local to be able to sustain yourself, the better.
Nuclear winter.
What's that?
Well, when the nuclear winter comes at us from
Well,
Ukraine.
Yeah, there's all kinds of possibilities of what could happen.
Or Taiwan.
Well, just the transportation issues and, the cost of getting food from one place to another.
You won't have to worry about it. We're ground zero for
Yeah.
first strikes. That's been my philosophy. We won't be around. Oh, yeah, you knew that, right?
All right, anything else?
Forget about it, but aliens.
It's a really good list.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, really good.
Is there anything else you all have been working on that?
That's what I'm trying to.
That's like.
The only thing I don't see what direct, I mean, we've had the waste management, but it's really that whole plastics and.
There's a number of subcategories.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do with,
Post.
Yeah, so waste reduction.
well, there's waste
Waste
reduction, but
reduction.
plastics is I won't say a toxin, but it's gonna be a toxin
Or what is
in
it?
the environment. So it's almost, there's two parts of that. It's not just the waste reduction, it's also getting it out of our water stream and getting it.
Right, the nanoplastics and all the rest of stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Lots of compost, production, the whole 9 yards.
The governor did mention, I'm sorry, it was the lieutenant governor in that kickoff for the climate for the Connecticut state. They did mention Groton as one of the 4 towns that took the initiative on plastic reduction. So
Including styrene, right? Which a lot
yes,
of,
did, yeah, so there was.
a lot of
so we
towns
gotta-
did do
you gotta-
that, so, yeah.
An attaboy, I guess.
Do you mean the League of Conservation Voters?
Yeah, they were on that forum, yeah, you were, yeah, Tess, you were there. Yeah.
Well, I was
You-
late,
you-
unfortunately, so I did miss some of the climate.
I
I
had
don't know the waste, but
Oh, the
anyway.
waste was at the end, that was it, that was at the beginning.
Yeah, so I missed the governor's speech.
Yes.
And I think he talked about waste, but I forward that? You probably had that.
Yeah, no, I
already.
had that.
Yeah, initiatives, yeah.
Is anything about the carbon sequestration? The issue with trees would fit under that. Anything
Yeah,
about?
a lot of things fit under that for
Yeah.
trees. I mean, it's tree management,
mean, this goes to emissions and reducing
Zoning, you know,
potential.
you take down a tree to build a development, you gotta put a tree someplace else. I don't know, whatever.
But yes, that's all anything with the trees would fit under that probably.
Yeah, we had put that into as an action item in our plan.
What about electrification of the town? I mean, the town, its buildings and transportation
Mhm.
itself, and then residents and businesses.
Where does encouraging solar come under? Is that sustainability or?
Well, I think that's the whole plan. What she's saying is that how are you going to get improve your electrical grid and the sourcing for that electricity, how it comes in. So
Yeah.
that's where I'd say is reduction of the
Fossil fuels.
fossil fuel dependency. How are we supporting the wind people? And how are we supporting the solar people? And how are we, are there potential for any kind of hydro stuff?
Do you guys know anything about solar caps? No, okay. Do you?
Yeah, but we're not gonna be able to create something that people can use for, because we're not big enough. That's like out west. where you-
No, oh, no. I mean, we could talk about it offline.
But
There's
solar,
issues in Connecticut with solar caps that are very restrictive. We're only at 3% solar and we're way behind our neighboring states. And we need more solar.
What do you mean by solar
Maybe,
caps though?
Oh, there's only a certain amount of solar that can be installed every year.
Because of the utilities, like utilities.
It
putting up.
could, I don't know if it's utilities or what it is. I got an explanation, but it didn't really make that much sense to me.
I mean, the only thing I think of is that the subsidies that the state provides is capped, but
No,
how you can cap
no, it's.
solar production.
I'd like to just add something kind of counterpoint to the whole pushing for solar. Solar energy is only green while it's being used. The production of solar is extremely fossil fuel dependent. They have to mine very rare elements so it's very, very dirty to create. And once the solar panels are dead, they're a really bad waste stream. So solar, it might or might not be better than fossil fuel consumption, but it uses huge amounts of fossil fuels to create. So it's not necessarily the greenest answer. You have to look at the life cycle.
I will, because, I just was looking at, we're getting off subject, but
Gotta look at the life cycle.
hydrogen energy is really.
There's,
That's the same
Right.
thing with turf
Same.
grass versus.
you gotta look
It's like-
at, way back when I was doing pollution prevention for the Coast Guard, EPA was really big on not just cradle to grave, but even like conception to, you have to really look at what's happening, in the entire life cycle of these
So
things.
It
to
might be more
decide
effective to convert to.
Which is better.
That's. vehicles versus-
gas-
But
I mean,
but that's just, and whether how things land in that cycle depends on where you live.
Produce burning it.
Yeah, but
There are pros and cons to all of these options.
absolutely.
All of them.
Absolutely.
But I just wanted to point out that solar, like if for a place to get a lot of sun, solar might be a reasonable option. But if you don't get a lot of sun, it may or may not be a better option than some other things. That's just.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point
Yeah.
that out.
Fossil fuels are definitely, fracking gas.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree that that we have to change what we do with energy.
Yeah.
It's just what the best answer isn't always
Well,
obvious.
remember, what Groton can do, we're a consumer more than anything else.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
how do we define our consumption parameters in the town? And that's only gonna be what the town consumes. So what's the vehicle structures and everything else? And that's why we did that study with the University of Connecticut, to try and provide a model that says, here's the pluses and minuses of all of it. It did not have total life cycle costs in there.
And it's not just cost, but also total life cycle pollution.
Yeah, impact. So-
That's really what you're looking at is what are you actually,
Oh,
what's
yeah.
the footprint of the entire life cycle?
hate to say a plan, but it's almost that. Yeah, it's too simple.
So
Kind
out
of.
of.
Well, we are, that's
really an
definitely a rabbit hole
energy plan,
discussion.
Master energy plan for the town as opposed to the conservation and development plan.
Well, a PLCD, I would think would address that.
It seems
Oh,
like
the
it-
energy plan for the town?
I mean, it could be a recommendation in there, sure.
Well, the town has a certain carbon footprint. And so,
Maybe it's a goal for the
right,
footprint to be down.
Well, but I think.
It's worth looking at.
That's right.
it's worth
You
looking at,
capture the
yeah.
life cycle costs. I think that's an important point we forget sometimes.
Yeah.
Because remember, that was our argument on plastics. Guys, it costs this much. not
It's
this much.
fossil fuels too, right? All
Yeah.
plastics are made from petroleum.
Oh, yeah, that too.
But, you'd rather just have the petroleum for things you really need it for rather than just burning it. So there's.
Yeah,
that's-
I know.
It's almost too valuable to burn.
Exactly.
Well, and there's a new push for, again, extending millstone and updating nuclear, and it's the same kind of thing, the life cycle, the mining
Exactly.
and the disposal.
And
Right.
right. And so we kind of think of that for nuclear, but we kind of forget to look at that for
Yeah.
solar or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a huge issue. That's why, reduce is the first important piece of
Yes.
the
Yes.
pollution prevention is how can you use less?
So
Yes.
getting back on track.
Yes.
Sorry.
Back on track. Is there elements from the staff's perspective that?
That we missed.
That we
Haven't
missed?
been mentioned yet.
No, I mean, I sort of expected, a number of the open space issues that you guys brought up. I think, seeing waste management up there that's really good. That's useful. That's something that the commission probably won't be thinking of. Something else, okay, it's not in the open space section of it, but it's, development patterns, redeveloping as opposed to developing on green fields, that kind of thing.
do we have a lot of brownfields in
No,
the town?
not too many.
Two, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
2 brownfields.
within the town.
yeah, within the town.
Like Laurel School,
We'll talk about the rest.
Well, no, that's the state and then. the
That's
feds,
state,
and
oh.
Some bases the feds.
Yeah,
But there's
okay.
one at this,
On down the road.
Oh, right down the road, right.
right, there's one down on Route 1 and the other one was over by the Colonoscopy School.
Oh,
Science sneakers
okay.
there.
They're relatively small, though.
Yes.
Yeah, both of them are very small.
The oral school, but that's state problem.
That's state
That's
property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to go 2 hours, Larry.
I know that. That was my limit. So having done this. You are the time clock.
Hey, I'm just
Amazing.
pointing something out that if we, this is what we needed to spend the time doing.
No, that's fine. And remember, the objectives today was what do you want to
This.
focus on?
Yep.
But also, there's 2 more things. One is. Which one, and I'll ask you guys, which of those categories do you think that the Conservation Commission can
Hmm.
take the lead on?
So I'm not sure what you mean by take the lead on it.
Yeah,
I think it's too early to ask that question.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think we need to organize these, see what the higher level buckets are, right? Because we're not gonna have 20 line items, we're gonna have 3 or 4, right? So see how these fit into bigger buckets. And then that bigger picture is the high level that goes in the plan.
Well, I was trying to narrow the list for things
But-
that we should focus on that relate to our, I don't think charter, their charter doesn't have anything in it. But, that logically to what our objectives are.
Okay, let me ask one other thing too. So I know you have your own plan of conservation. What's the thought process, or how often does that get updated, or would you like to update it?
As we get the new POCD.
Historically, it's every 30 years.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm asking is that, looking at this list, and I know the answer, but looking at this list or anything on this list here that's not currently in your open space plan.
Oh.
Not enough, yeah, there's a few that aren't sufficiently explored.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
And I-
about half, it's half and half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Half are in the open space plan because it was open space related.
Right, right.
About half of these are, I would say, in the other areas of conservation.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, that we really have never developed a plan for, or
Right.
detailed plan for.
Well, a lot of it's sort of more of an ongoing discussion and
Yeah, it's been discussions and we have taken action on the plastic type of stuff. That's been about it. We haven't gotten involved in a lot of these other areas.
because a lot of it would be working with other departments.
Yeah, and the whole resiliency is a big factor in here. We've kind of left that because we had the resilience task force here. To kind of stayed out of their knickers. You know, they let somebody else, because we only have so much resource bandwidth.
So-
Right.
Well, I think the answer is gonna be is after the 2026 PLCD, then we would look to do an update
So, okay,
to our,
that's good to know. Yep.
which would be 2020, we did ours, right?
Right.
So
2030.
2030 seems like, well, I mean, 10 years.
Yeah, well, if the POCD is in line with what we'd like to see.
Right.
The need for us, because we've always been on the factor that the POCD is a higher tier document, we need to comply with this. Okay.
So my suggestion would be figure out what the buckets are. That are the high level things that we recommend for the plan. And then once we see the buckets are, then see which buckets are the ones that we should be lead on versus versus helpers, right? So we're, like, if they all become line items for, recommendations, which ones are we lead, which ones are we support, which ones don't we have anything to do with?
And again, based upon the conversation last week, let's hope that there aren't 93 action items again.
Right.
In theory, there should be much less.
Right.
So there won't, there might be more overlap because of that. They're not, because again, we did 27 today, 4 of which conservation was marked that they were a part of that. So you just don't know, but hopefully not 93.
No.
But really, I think it's really useful to do categories like what you're
Yep.
saying and really take a deep dive into what you would like to see come out of the plan I mean, you don't need to write it because that doesn't make any sense before we hire a consultant, but to really have your thoughts in
The
order, an
Concepts.
outline, bullet points for what you want to see under each of those categories.
So does it make sense to hand this over to you guys and let you, knowing that you're so responsible for the plan too, to sort of come up with those buckets for us and hand it back to us to comment on?
We can take a shot at it
Yeah.
and then you can change it. I mean,
Right. I mean, it's
Yeah.
more,
I mean,
it's really more coming from the commission about
Right.
how you see it, like, yeah, of course, we can put it there, but you're like, it's actually, I would actually think it'd be stronger coming from you all.
I would tend to agree.
I think it'd be stronger coming from us, but
I'm just saying, realistically.
but on the other hand, we don't know how many buckets you're gonna get over. You're gonna look at us and say, too many buckets.
well, right. I mean, whatever you do, you want to be flexible enough to
Yeah.
Right.
fit
think
into
it's
whatever
taking a
the
stab at
planning
it.
and zoning commission
Yeah.
decides they want for a format.
And prioritizing them.
Yeah,
Once you have, once
exactly.
you figure out your buckets, say there's 6 buckets. 2 or 3 may be the ones that, no, we have to do this. These other ones are nice, but we have to do these 3 or 2.
So if we took this list, this 2 pieces of paper. And see if we could do groupings, number 1, right? The things that are kind of, this thing is like, and then do high, medium, low priority. Each of us do high, medium, low as a priority as a homework assignment.
Yeah, that'd be fair. Because time, rather than, a lot of these times you go to these brainstormings, I gotta go up there with my little dot here.
I was just-
Yeah, I thought about that. I don't know. So, as the secretary of the Conservation Commission,
Just take a picture.
you can take the paper.
How about this? I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
What I'll do is, it's too pieces of paper.
Right.
I'll type them up exactly how you have them, and then I'll put it in an Excel file, and I'll give you three categories: high, medium, and low. And you can go in there, each of you put your little X's, save it, bring it back to discuss next time.
Okay,
That'll-
I was thinking of doing a grouping though, so that's,
And a-
can we,
and a
can we take the 30 items that are on there and really talk about 10? I mean, is there a way of squeezing them?
Right.
Because
Well,
some of the
the relationship did start becoming obvious as we were adding stuff to it.
that's what I meant. Some-
Some
Well, I think, I think take a look at the high, medium, low, then from that, you basically you're gonna group, because some of the low stuff just get rid of.
Yeah, okay, all right, fair enough.
Might be a grouping right there, see where your results.
See how
are.
it falls out, yeah.
Yeah, if everything in one category is low.
I'm trying to think, is that our next meeting is Monday?
I know, well,
And it's
you,
gotta-
Monday.
Huh?
Oh, it's next Monday, yeah.
It's next
Yeah,
Yeah, we put
That's
tonight.
fine, that's fine.
yeah, for you.
No, no, no.
The rest of it, I can, that's fine. This is not gonna take me long to do. All right, so, but the more question is to you all. What Larry's trying to ask, he hasn't asked yet. Do you think a week is enough time? Do you have enough time? Each of you have enough time
Yeah.
to process this list?
That's where I was going. And
I know, I
the fact is, it's a full agenda.
It is a full agenda. Well, that's.
It's a lot of stuff.
A little bit of there's some stuff to review and.
Right,
So-
so that's why I'm kind of going.
Well, maybe just wait till, I mean, this isn't like we need an answer
No.
tomorrow, so wait till
Have time.
I mean,
wait till the March, may put this on the March.
Well,
agenda.
from your timeline, because one of the questions I
Right.
had was, what's the timeline? What,
oh, if we're lucky, if we get funded, right? Then it's probably a 2 to 3 month process to actually pick somebody. Another month to, get the scope all done. So, yeah,
She's talking September, October.
no, but the point is,
Should be okay.
my view is that whatever we think is important, we would like to be in the RFP. In other words, we
Right.
want you to write something that addresses these points, not ask them to tell us what's important.
No, and that was the start of our discussion with planning and zoning. What are they seeing as important? I mean, we will certainly report back to them what all you guys come up with. And we'll go from there when we develop the RFP.
I think you want to be very cautious about. With the RFP coming in with too many
Yeah.
Yeah.
because what Deb had talked about before in the conversation with planning and zoning about these neighborhood meetings. We're hoping
Exactly.
that there's gonna be some things that we're like, oh my gosh, we didn't even think of that. And that has to be part of it, but we don't want to assume or presume that we know what should.
We have
be.
all the answers,
That's fine,
right?
but I'm saying that RFP then is after those sessions, after the public outreach, so. I'm okay with that. I would like to, as part of a public outreach, I would like to say, well, here's a starting list that we've thought about. What's missing? Or do you want to go with
I
the
don't know. It may be wide open.
or
Maybe-
wide open? or
What are the
what?
problems in your neighborhood? What are you
Yeah.
seeing that are going to be an issue for you for the next 5 years? I mean, it might be more open-ended than that.
And
And it could be everybody's basement is flooding. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Right, you don't know.
Yeah.
And also, I think that when these neighborhood meetings, if this is the format that it sounds like would be effective, I think it'd be helpful for everyone to go to some or one of them and just see it from a different perspective outside of maybe your own neighborhood.
Mhm.
Because I think we're all very much aware of what happens in our neighborhood, but when you go somewhere else, you're like, I just never thought, I didn't know that was an issue there. Or wow, that's,
And so when do you expect to start having those meetings?
We hope to get somebody on board, a
That's
consultant on board, October, November-ish.
To do the meetings, so,
To get someone signed to do the next POCD, then we'll start talking about meetings.
okay, so the people meeting with the public doesn't happen until after you get the consultant.
Absolutely right.
So you do need our input before that point.
Sure, October or November.
All right, so our March meeting,
You guys are, yeah.
let's put this on the agenda for the homework assignment to be completed for our March meeting.
There you go.
That sounds totally reasonable.
Huh?
That sounds totally reasonable.
Be careful about.
Oh, my God, what did I do wrong?
Because on the budget, you have to wait till the end of the whole budget session. Pardon?
It'll be available July 1.
And RPM will vote on it in May. First, the biggest thing is gonna get it through the town council.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of what the schedule, idea of the schedule.
You won't be able to do anything until July 1st,
Right.
Right.
as far as our starting an RFP, but she'll know that she's got it by then, because
Michelle, it's all right.
This is not a.
It's okay.
I think we have some spray. I'll spray it down and get it off.
Oh, uh-oh.
There's right here.
Oh, that's fine, whatever.
I brought my erasable.
This is supposed to be erasable too. Gotta have an eraser now.
Oh.
gotta use this stuff.
It's a little better.
Are you doing this with other commissions besides P and Z and the conservation?
Only the planning and zoning commission. You guys
Yeah.
can decide yourself.
You guys have been very proactive, like, so I know.
Yeah,
And this was a really good discussion,
it is, yeah.
you know,
Yeah, you're gonna have to clean this again.
Okay, well, thank you.
no, it did go well.
Okay,
And like I said, I think the meetings go very well because we're set to an agenda. This is nice to do every now and then, to have these bigger picture thoughts about things, and it's get a lot of it. That's fine, I know. Thank you. Thank you for taking notes. I saw like how quickly you jumped up there. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got facilitator training. You can't, you just.
Hey, I love it.
I can't help
You saw that
myself.
We were struggling.
Can't help
and you-
myself.
You had to step in.
you know.
That's why you're secretary.
But it was a positive contribution, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yes, we do. So, any other items from the staff's point of view on this? Kind of have a plan to go forward? That was great. That's good. Okay. And I do want to thank the staff for the work, the commission, Tom's doing, the heavy lifting, a lot of the stuff, but of getting to the baseline inventory.
We're still working, so.
I know.
It's ongoing, I know that, but there's a baseline that now can go on from. And so I think that was a significant.
Oh, yeah.
accomplishment. So
It's been very.
couldn't have done it without you. So we appreciate it. Okay, I will then look for a motion to adjourn.
So
Fine. Hey, see, Frank beat me to it. Second.
You second, all in favor?
I.
All right, it is passed.
Excellent.
We're adjourned.
Yes. All right, turn.